It's Thursday, the 8th of June, 2023. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael. Very big day.
It certainly is. 5 big stories to get through in just 5 minutes, so we better jump straight into it. Story number 1, the Australian economy grew by just 0.2% during the March quarter, demonstrating, Sean, just how much higher interest rates and the cost of living is hitting consumers.
The result was worse than expected, and while it shows that the economy is definitely slowing and will support the Reserve Bank's efforts to dampen inflation, it probably won't prevent another interest rate rise. At least that's the conclusion of several market economists. The Bureau of Statistics figures yesterday showed that weak household spending and a fall in construction is weighing on the economy. Now, for the full year to the end of March, Australia grew at a 2.3% pace. That was down from 2.7% last year. Always plenty of great information in the national accounts. Higher taxes, along with bigger mortgage payments, meant that the savings ratio has fallen to 3.7%. That's the lowest since June 2008, way below the COVID levels. Personal income taxes have jumped because as wage inflation has gone on, workers have been pushed into higher tax brackets. And on productivity, the economic topic du jour, well, it went backwards. In fact, it was the worst result ever, exactly what the Reserve Bank doesn't want.
And Sean, just ahead of the national accounts, Reserve Bank Governor Phil Lowe was speaking.
Yeah, he was talking about the bank trying to navigate a very, very narrow path. He said it's going to be difficult and bumpy to lower inflation, grow the economy, and hold on to gains in the labour market. So where we find ourselves at this point, Michael, rates are likely to still rise in an effort to get inflation lower. In fact, some people think there might be 2 or 3 more rate rises. There's a real risk the economy could go into recession. It would be mild, but a recession nonetheless. There'll be job losses in coming quarters. It's going to be a very difficult rest of 2023.
Yeah, sure will be. All right, on to story number 2 now, Sean. Treasurer Jim Chalmers will give the Reserve Bank more power to regulate companies in payments and also better coordinate regulators in the sector.
Yeah, so about 55 million payments worth about $650 billion are made in Australia every day. And a growing number of these are facilitated by tech companies like Apple, Google, the buy now, pay later groups, Zip, Afterpay, China's WeChat. But the rules basically were written when people still wrote checks and smartphones hadn't been invented. So Treasury are changing the rules. The Reserve Bank will get much more power to regulate all those payment providers. So too will the Treasurer. A big change in the payments systems world.
Sean, speaking of big changes, story number 3, the federal government will stop writing cheques, literally, by 2028, with an eventual end to their use economy-wide, planned for 2030.
There are still hundreds of thousands of cheques written every year, but it's going the way of the dodo. Federal Treasurer Jim Chalmers said the government will systemically transition transactions to digital. About 1/4% of transactions processed use cheques. Some regions and some age groups use cheques more often, obviously, but Chalmers said Australia needs to grow modern, world-class and efficient payment systems that are safe, trusted and accessible. Cheques don't fit into that, apparently.
No, don't seem to. Story number 4, Brookfield, the Canadian investment giant taking over Origin Energy, has told the competition regulator that if successful, it will develop an additional 10 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity than if Origin was left on its own.
The claim is made in Brookfield's submission to the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission as part of its agreed $18.7 billion takeover. The essence of the submission is that Australia's clean energy transition will be stymied if the deal is blocked. It says a successful takeover will bring substantial public benefits by accelerating Australia's decarbonisation efforts at a time when the transition is faltering. Now, Brookfield plans to build an additional 14 gigawatts of renewables over the next decade. It'll cost about $20 billion. It says that will support local manufacturing in the wind power and battery industries. And ultimately, and this is a killer line, it will deliver cheaper, cleaner energy and storage, placing downward pressure on wholesale prices and consequently energy bills.
Story number 5, Sean, is all about the business of sport. And this is big business because the ludicrously wealthy Saudi-backed Live Golf Tour has agreed to merge with the US PGA and European tours, unifying professional golf around the world.
For those that haven't followed it, golf split in half less than a year ago, with some players, including Australia's best, Cameron Smith, joining the Rebel Live Tour. With its massive purses, it's run by another Australian, Greg Norman. Others stayed with the US and European PGA tours. The two sides hated each other. Plenty of criticism going on. Under the deal announced yesterday, and which no one saw coming, at least not this quickly, the three will merge into a single for-profit entity. Live players who were suspended by the PGA tours will be allowed back. Not sure what the new tour will be called, not sure what it means for the Australian PGA, which is a satellite to the other PGA tours, but we have peace in our time for golfers, and I dare say more money for those golfers who didn't join the Live Tour.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Thursday, the 8th of June, 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough for you, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget as well, the Amazon Echo smart speaker range comes with Alexa built in. Simply say, Alexa, play the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed podcast to catch the latest episode. You can get yours now at amazon.com.au. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.